turned out. Oh, good. Yes, this is the one. I was chair of photography. I had tenure there. Yeah, I'm a photographer. First and foremost, but I do video and stories. Yeah, so I've been making a lot of work. But no, that's Did you? I love doing it. The last break in the United States. Like 6 years. Yeah, no. Fascinating. Well, our first year. It was a prison for over. That's why I'm doing it. Like, unless you're on the first year. But I'm like very child expectations. And that's why I always come in. Yeah, they all have. It seems like boys. No, I feel like that's our experience. My work is only about educating my local. Nice. Long-term work, but I don't know. Her biggest thing is just like too much. Oh, yeah. No, okay. Oh, right. Group of excitement. Yeah. And she will be. With questions. Yeah, I can show dabble and the double more. I like my. But right now she's. Seen it firsthand. A lot of. Yeah. That's a question. Yes. Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah. I wonder if he was there when I was there. I mean, I was just there so briefly. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Maybe because wireless. You'll see real wireless. You should have seen it. I could never be a do my impersonation. I mean, they must, I think that they write it out. Yeah, I know. I've seen it where they have a student worker whisper the name to them before they say it. I'm like, that's what I mean. That always makes me, you ever watch, what's it, Secret? Here I am. I think I had a friend. Oh, I think I had a guy. Like shaking hands. Yes, exactly. Me too. His mother too. Yeah, we all need that. Yeah, I can't do that for us. No. The chip in your ear. Disrupted? Yeah, we usually have stragglers. Yeah, five. Oh. Your whole class. Is your whole class here? Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. How are we doing today? Thanks for showing up. This is a great audience. This should be an amazing talk today. It is actually the 5th year of the Don Vegas mcad Animation Innovations Program. So how fortunate we are to have Bev here in the audience today, and thank you so much for your donation that makes this lecture series possible. I'm actually going to pass this off now to Kristen Solid, who is a longtime faculty member here at mcad, to do the introduction for Julie today. Thank you.
Hello. We all love animation, and we all understand the artistry, the dedication, the passion that go into creating moving works of art. How many of you have wondered how a person can go from a small college in Minnesota to working at some of the most prestigious companies in the industry and then directing their own project? She is a graduate of St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota, and the summer animation program at Sheridan College in Ontario. She worked at Industrial Light and Magic as a 3D animator on Mars Attacks, The Lost World, Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, and Jurassic Park 3. She then went on to work on fully animated, character-driven feature films at DreamWorks, including Megamind, Rise of the Guardians, Madagascar, and Shrek. Then she went to Pixar and worked on Toy Story 4 and Soul. To pursue the story angle, she transitioned to storyboarding and worked on projects for Warner Brothers Animation, Netflix, and most recently, Amazon Prime's Secret Level series. She is currently directing a 2D animated short based on her award-winning screenplay. Please welcome Julie Nelson.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for inviting me here, and thank you, Bev, Pages, and Dawn for graciously funding my being here today. And I'm thrilled to be here. I grew up in Minneapolis, and I actually I took an extension course at MCAD right after college. It was a computer animation course. And we use this software called Topaz, which no one's ever heard of. But I looked up and it still exists, so it's not dead. So the theme for the lecture series, Storied Past and Imagined Futures, really suits my career. I spend a lot of time imagining futures for myself, and I have a lot of stories. The story of how I got into animation is actually pretty funny, pretty good. So as Kristen said, I was an art major at St. Olaf College, and the summer after graduation, my boyfriend and I at the time went and worked at Yosemite National Park just for the summer for fun. And we were city kids, so we would always go into San Francisco to hang out and go to shows and bands, and we went one time to see this band called Walt Mink. Has anybody heard of them? They're a Minneapolis band, and they're great, and they sound a bit like Smashing Pumpkins. They're very 90s. Yeah, oh good. But yeah, I loved them, and so we went to see them at this club called Slim's. And when I was there, I saw this guy, Rich Quaid. I recognized him in the crowd, and he was also a St. Olaf grad before me. He had come back to Olaf to teach an animation course while I was there, so I recognized him. He's a cool guy. He worked on some stuff for Pee-wee's Playhouse. I think he studied animation at UCLA. Anyway, so I went up to him and introduced myself, and he recognized me too. And he said, "Oh yeah, I just got this job at this place called Pixar." And it was like, no one had ever heard of Pixar before. It was brand new. And he actually invited me and gave me a tour. He was working on the Luxo lamp at the time. This is long before Toy Story. I think the only thing they really had put out at that point, they had been doing some commercials, so they had some recognition, but yeah, no idea that what was to come. And so yeah, I owe it all to him and Walt Mink that I got into animation. Just to give some context of what it was like at the time, animation, what the animation scene was like at the time. Animation was pretty obscure. There were the Disney films, they just seemed so unattainable. So for me, my influences going into animation school were really Spike and Mike, Pee-wee's Playhouse, and MTV had Liquid Television, so there's like Aeon Flux. But Spike and Mike was a big annual festival, if you've never heard of it, and it would tour animated shorts around every year, and that's where a lot of things got their start, like Wallace and Gromit and Ren and Stimpy and The Simpsons and so much stuff. And Tin Toy, I think, was also in that too, the Pixar. So yeah, but for the most part, this is what inspired me going into animation school. I had no idea that I could ever have a career in film. My goal was to just make a short film. Here's me at college. I was renting a room in a house with a mattress on the floor. The light table you see there is like my brother-in-law Sheldon made that for me. It was the best, and I really was just brand new to animation. And I went to this school called Sheridan in Oakville, Ontario. They had a summer school program which condensed the entire year into 3 months in the summer. It was really cheap, so it was perfect for me because I could work during the year and then pay for it, and I'd get the same amount of education. It was a really intense program though. So in between, I would return to Minneapolis and work. I waitressed a lot, and but I also would get some. I got some jobs freelancing at some Minneapolis studios. My first ever job was cell painting at RealWorks, and it was a cow commercial, but if you're unfamiliar, I toured the studio here, and you have a good understanding of what cell animation is, but it's drawn back in those days. We'd draw it, clean it up, ink it on a cell, and then paint within the lines. And if I made any mistakes, they would have to send it back to the inkers. So there's a lot of pressure. And I also worked at Windlight Studios. They gave me an internship, which was incredible. They used this software called Alias, and they were pioneers in motion capture, which they had a full stage before a lot of studios had that, so they were early developers of that. And that's where I worked with Don Bages, who his fund has sponsored me being here today, so thank you again. Great animator. So I just thought it would be fun to play the cow commercial that I painted. I found it. RealWorks is now Rowboat Studios, and it's Bruce McFarlane animated this, so I painted.
Chocolate milk. Start with milk, add Hershey's syrup. Stir well, and voila! Chocolate milk, made by you, and rich, delicious Hershey's syrup.
And it was very difficult to paint this because it's such a massive cow. So we'd have to puddle the paint on, and then it would bubble, and so you'd have to flick it, to get the bubbles out. And then since it was a puddle, it would like drip out the side, and it was a challenge, but it was really cool. And he's a great animator. So everything changed while I was at animation school. Jurassic Park came out, and it changed everything. Suddenly, animators were in demand, and I got hired right out of school to work at Industrial Light and Magic. If anybody's unfamiliar with it, it's the VFX division of Lucasfilm. It was created to do VFX mostly for Star Wars, and it just kept growing and growing. They were really at their peak at that time. They're pioneers in live action and digital effects, and by that time, so not only Jurassic Park, but they had done The Abyss, Terminator 2. While I was there, they did Twister, and so or just before I got there, they did Twister. So they were winning awards, and they were just changing the playing field for everybody. I got to work with some real legends. In the top left is Dennis Muren and Phil Tippett and Tom Saint Amand. There they are, and they were the stop-mo guys on the Star Wars films, on the Tauntaun and so Tom Saint Amand I ended up sharing an office with him for many years, and he's a good friend of mine. So it was incredible to talk to him about his experiences. He had animated the E.T. biking across the moon and everything, like all the stuff that was so inspiring to me as a kid. And then the bottom left corner is Randy Dutra. He was a stop-mo guy too, and he had done stop-mo, I think, on RoboCop, but he was the animation supervisor on Lost World, which was one of the kind of one of the first films I worked on. I learned a lot from him. Here's at ILM, they don't usually have multiple projects going on at the same time, and so I ended up working with this group a lot. The guy on the far right is Dan Taylor, and then in the middle is Tom Saint Amand. There he is. He also was the armature maker at Skellington, and so he designed all the armatures for Nightmare Before Christmas, James and Giant Peach, and there he is holding the armature for King Kong. So yeah, it was incredible to work with him. He's a really good guy. And this is us where he's holding King Kong, because this is when we worked on Mighty Joe Young, and I worked with him on that. Industrial Light and Magic at the time, when I got hired here, the picture in the middle is what they looked like in the 70s. This is what the front of the building looked like. They kept it in disguise, so they put this Kerner Optical Company on the front, and they had this really kind of ugly, mundane front, and it didn't change. It looked this way all the way through that when I was there, just to keep it secret, you know. But behind the scenes, behind the doors, they were doing incredible stuff. They had 3 sound stages. Unfortunately, they've moved now. You can see this is from a real estate agent, but I found it online. But this is what it looked like. And they had 3 sound stages, which is where they would do these practical, like live action explosions and things. One of the sound stages they referred to as Cookie Bay, because that's where they would do the explosions. And then they always had an intercom going, where they would, you know, page people or announce when dailies were happening and stuff. They'd also have these announcements every now and then, fire in Cookie Bay. And then, so everyone was like a warning to stay away from Cookie Bay. And then the like ground would rumble a little bit. So, it's funny. Yeah, so my first film was Dragonheart. I trained I was hired as a CG animator. And I trained in with a bunch of stop motion animators. They had worked on this show called Bump in the Night, which I still haven't seen to this day, but there was a big group of us, and we had to do, there was a competition. We did a walk cycle. We each did a walk cycle of Draco the dragon, and my walk cycle won. So I got to get a shot in Dragonheart, like at the very tail end. So I did one shot, and it was like probably 97 frames or something. But it was great because it was the dragon flying, so I got to animate his wings, and he shot fireballs out his nose, and hit a straw hut. So I got to go do all the cool stuff. And then this room is, this is what our workstations looked like. They always had models, old models and maquettes and stuff hanging from the ceiling and from the walls and stuff. Because ILM at that time had a full creature shop and a full model shop where they would build all these things. And it was really incredible. For a while, I worked in an office that had a giant airplane from Spielberg's film Always in it, hanging above us. So we just take it for granted, you know. Yeah, then on Mars Attacks, they were originally going to do Mars Attacks in stop motion. So they had built all the maquettes and they were all set to do it, but then a couple of guys from ILM did a digital test, and Tim Burton kind of recognized it was the better choice. I guess the limitations with the Martians is that they have these plastic helmets, and so to remove they had to remove the helmet in order to change the faces, the heads for the stop motion, and then the plastic would get all mucked up. So they went with digital, and I felt a little bad about it because I felt like it, you know, I didn't want stop motion to go away, but I think over time stop motion is stronger than ever now, and I think CG really has only worked to enhance it. It's become a tool for stop motion. In fact, I think CG a lot of times they're mimicking stop motion. That seems to be what's happening now. So I think stop motion is stronger than ever. So, here, oh yeah, every show is kind of every show is kind of different. Depending on the director and their style of working. Yeah, and for me, it was a real thrill to work with Tim Burton, especially at the time, because I just was like in love with Pee-wee and everything. And so, but he didn't like to have dailies with everybody. He liked to have dailies in private with just the supervisors. But he did come around and meet everybody, and that was pretty incredible. But some directors would have dailies with us, like Spielberg did, and that when I worked on Lost World, and that was amazing. And he was everything you'd imagine. He was just really decisive and knew what he wanted, and just a real dream to work with. So here are some boards from Mars Attacks I thought would be fun to show. They show the different stages. So there's you can see the original storyboard, and then these are the live action plates they would shoot, visualizing where they would place the CG spaceship ultimately. I just thought it would be fun to show that. So we would work with these live action plates, and back then they were still shooting on actual film. So they would scan the film in, and a lot of times there would be dust and lint, as you can imagine. So they had an entire department called dirt removal. People would go in and clean up the dirt specks. I had carpooled with a guy who worked in dirt, so we called it dirt. Here's some storyboards from Lost World. Spielberg boarded everything, which is why I think his stuff is so good. And this is a sequence I worked on. And then it was a bit unusual that he actually drew over, or he didn't, but that his board artist drew over the live action plates just to visualize it and stage it. And here's some more. Just really planned and well executed and well staged. Here's a crew photo for Lost World, and this is they had a guy up on a roof. They had us all stand in a parking lot. They didn't tell us what they were going to do, but they told us to look like you're running for your life. So, and then they had a guy up on a roof take the photo, and then they comped us in this. Is pretty funny. Oh, and then here's me with they had a maquette of the baby T-Rex, which I animated the baby T-Rex in Lost World, and so I think this was at the texture department. They were using it as reference to paint the digital dinosaurs. And yeah, so we worked, especially in the Jurassic Park films, we worked alongside Stan Winston's Creature Shop, and we worked alongside their animatronics. At the time, animatronics just looked more believable and blended better with the live action. But the machines, as you can see, were really heavy and cumbersome, like very complicated and impressive. Don't get me wrong, but very kind of limited in their movement. As you can see, that the Spinosaurus in the top right has to be on a track, and then there is the guy in the suit. So the guy in the suit in the bottom left corner, that's the raptor, and but CG rendering really rapidly caught up. So by Jurassic Park 3, you really couldn't tell the difference between CG and animatronics, and so I thought it would be kind of fun to show one of the sequences I worked on, which is side by side CG shots and animatronic shots, and point out which one's which. So this is the guy in the suit. Animatronic. This is my shot.
Mr. Corby! Billy! Is Alan with you? Oh my God.
Mr. Udesky! Mr. Udesky!
He's dead.
Oh my God. No, he's not.
No, wait. Something's not right. Gotta help him. Amanda!
I worked on some of these shots. These are all.
Hold on. They set a trap. They actually set a trap.
Animatronic.
What do you say? What are you looking
Animatronic.
for?
Again. And this is my shot. Yeah. Yeah, so that was that was fun. That was fun to work on. So and here's another crew photo they did. And I worked on. So these are the films I worked on while I was there, and it was incredible to work. I worked with it was such an incredible time to be in VFX. Everything has changed so much, and I learned so much while working there, and incredibly talented people. But it was mostly creature work, and I wanted to do character and story. So I left and I went to DreamWorks, and I worked on, and they had PDI. DreamWorks was in Northern California. The headquarters is in LA, but PDI had just made Shrek, and it was a massive success. So my first show was Shrek 2, and I thought it'd be fun to show the sequence I worked on. I did the shots of Princess Fiona and the Prince Charming on the stairs at the beginning, and Puss at the end.
C minor. Put it in C minor. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to dedicate this song to Princess Fiona, and
These are my
Prince
shots.
Shrek.
Fiona, my princess, would you honor me with a dance?
Where have all the good men gone, and where are all the gone? Where's the streetwise Hercules to fight the rising moon?
And the dancing,
Since
I don't remember exactly, but
Fiona, my
it was
dearest,
this
if there's one thing
Tim
I know,
Chung,
it's that
and
love
a really great animator,
is
and Anthony
full of
Hodgson.
and
I think Paul Chung.
I dream
I don't
of
remember.
what
I'm
I
sorry.
need. Hit it!
Yeah, Shrek 2, I think holds up still.
All right, big
with,
fella,
I have kids,
let's
and
crash
it's
this
always something I
party.
can still watch of my own movies. Most of them I couldn't watch. And we'd all fight over working on Gingy. Because his facial shapes were so stylized, so doing lip sync with him was really fun. And his character.
Not the gumdrop button!
Yeah. Conrad did the voice. I think so, yeah. Yeah, the directors are really funny too. They would always joke around with each other. They had a really good sense of humor. So silly.
Go, Mongo, go!
What? Oh, right. Yeah.
After you,
One of the
Mongo.
nights. Okay.
Watch out!
And the horse.
Oh, hey, let's go!
And the horse is, the horse shots are James Baxter. And he's just the goat. I don't know. Do you know who James Baxter is? Oh, okay. I couldn't tell if you reacted. But he had just come off of Spirit, so Spirit's amazing if you guys didn't know. Yeah. I think that's Anthony Hodgson. He's good.
Come on! No!
Pinocchio was also really fun animated. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think you're right. So the horse is all really moving. So these are my shots.
Go! Your lady needs you. Go! Today, I repay my debt. On guard!
Thanks, Baxter.
Hey, you! Back away from my wife.
Shrek?
Yeah. Yeah, so Shrek 2 was hugely successful. It was the biggest box office hit, I think, for years and years. We even got employee bonuses, and it was a really big deal. Yeah, imagine that, right? So yeah, it was a really fun crew, and one of my favorite experiences. So yeah, then I got the opportunity to be the character lead on Roxanne, on Megamind, and that was amazing. She she they worked hard on getting her the relationship between her and Hal, who is the villain. There was a lot of work that went into getting that right. And they wanted to get her right too. They wanted to make her not your typical trope. It was Tina Fey did the voice. So they wanted to make her smart, and I think she's a pretty great female lead. It was difficult to get her right, though, as you can see. They tried a lot of different looks. And then this is Hal, the villain. They went a bunch of different ways with him as well before they got him right. And Bryce McGovern, yeah, and he's really amazing animator. So yeah, I worked with Bryce pretty closely on some of these shots. And but yeah, so he's like the likable nerd who loves Roxanne, but she rejects him, and he turns really dark. And he becomes really the villain. And I actually really appreciate how dark they went with him. I mean, this is pre-Me Too, you know, and he basically is he's a, you know, incel nerd. And he's basically a stalker, you know. So I think he's one of my favorite villains in because especially for women, right? And so it's pretty successful. They tried a different. I worked on a sequence where is really his lowest point, when he becomes really his darkest moment, when he has captured her, Roxanne, and tied her up. And so I animated the shots of her being tied up and pleading for her life, basically. And it was a very difficult point in the film to get right, because they didn't want to go too dark with him, but they had to find the right balance. So it was a lot of rewrites, and I had to reanimate several shots several times. And it's a lot of work. I'd take the shot all the way to polish, and then I would get a rewrite, and I'd have to start at square one again. And I mean, it's fine, because I like that they went so that they found the right. I feel like they found the right balance, and it takes a lot. You know, it's just the way that it goes. But I emote with the characters that I'm animating, so it was very emotionally draining. So I just wanted to show the many different iterations that we did before we landed on the final.
Oh, and just so you don't get cold feet, call for your hero to come rescue you.
He's left. Not even listening.
Call for your hero to come rescue you.
Please don't do this. I know there's still good in you, Hal.
You're so naive, Roxy. Call for your hero to come rescue you.
Megamind, I don't even know if you're listening, but if you are, you can't give up.
Do it!
Why? There are no heroes anymore. No real ones, anyway.
Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there is no Queen of England. This is the real world, and you need to wake up.
You're wrong, Hal. Good is out there.
Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there is no Queen of England. This is the real world, and you need to wake up.
You're wrong, Hal. Good is out there.
Don't keep me waiting.
Yeah. So then the punchline, the final shot. I finaled my shots, and I got recast on a different sequence, and then they rewrote it again, and they gave it to someone else. So my shots didn't actually. One of my shots ended up in the final film. I just thought it would be fun to play here's the final.
Please don't do this. I know there's still good in you, Hal.
You're so naive, Roxy. You see the good in everybody, even when it's not there. You're living a fantasy. There is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there is no Queen of England. This is the real world, and you need to wake up.
Yeah, that's Bryce. His animation is amazing. Yeah, but the guy who ended up animating the shots that they rewrote was Dave Torres, and he's a fantastic animator. He's at Pixar, and I worked really closely with him on that whole sequence, so he deserved it, and it's fine. Yeah, he is. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so we shot a lot of reference when we animate, and DreamWorks for a DVD special, or extra, they cut together a bunch of our reference, and so I just thought it'd be fun to play it.
In animation, after the actors have recorded their lines and set the tone for the characters, the job of the animators begins.
Hello.
It's
There's Dave Torres.
Hello?
You left us in the hands of
There's me.
him! No offense.
No, I'm with you.
On
Anthony
Megamind,
Hodgson.
each of the animators was given the all-important role of bringing the characters to life on screen.
There's me.
As part of this task, the animators were often asked to take over the roles of Megamind, Metro Man, Roxanne,
There's me.
Titan, and Minion, and act out the most challenging scenes in character.
Over here, old friend. In case you haven't noticed, you've fallen right into my trap.
You can't trap justice. It's an idea, a belief.
Even
The
the
head
most
of
heartfelt
character
belief can be corroded over time.
Justice is a non-corrosive metal.
But metals can be melted by the heat of revenge.
It's revenge, and it's best served cold.
But it can be easily reheated in the microwave of evil.
Well, I think your warranty is about to expire.
Maybe I got an extended warranty.
Warranties are invalid if you don't use the product for its intended purpose.
Oh, girls, you're both pretty. Can I go home now?
By shooting video reference footage of these sessions, animators were able to capture on film a template on which to base the characters' movements, facial expressions, and actions.
Oh, you're a villain, all right. Just not a super.
As you can see from the footage,
That's Bryce.
becoming the characters is not only essential for creating a great shot, but a lot of fun as well.
You're fun. Oh, don't like that, huh?
Well, there's more.
Feel it. Smart thinking.
Let's just have fun with this. Come on. And I will get back to you.
That's this guy Ronnie Namani. His comedy is the best. He's the best with comedy. He's the best actor. Yeah, and I wanted to also mention when I was working on Megamind, I had just had a baby, and I had 2 kids. It was really difficult balancing work and life. But when I worked on Peabody and Sherman, my son was about the same age as Sherman, and so I used him for some reference. I just thought it would be fun to play it, and you can see how we start out. Here's the first shot. This is the layout we're given when we start a shot.
Where should we go first? Mr. Peabody says I'm not allowed to drive until I'm older.
1, 2, go.
Okay.
Now that we've seen it, maybe you should go back.
Are you kidding? Where do we go first?
Mr. Peabody said I shouldn't drive until I get older. Now that we've seen it, maybe we should go back. Are you kidding? Where should we go first? Mr. Peabody says I'm not allowed to drive until I'm older.
So I was at DreamWorks for 10 years, and I worked on all these films, and it was incredible. I worked with, as you can see, some really talented people and learned so much. And I wanted to, it really is just so demanding. You don't have any time to do anything of your own creatively. And I had a lot of ideas of my own, and I wanted to explore. So I left and I tried screenwriting. I tried writing a screenplay. I optioned the rights to a book series called The Ghost Drum by Susan Price. And I made some art for it and designed the characters, and it was a great experience. I'm trying to refer to my notes. And so it also got there was another director, there was a Japanese anime director from Ghibli actually, who was interested in it, and he had just he got in contact, and we met in LA, and he's kind of known for this movie. This is his most recent film, In This Corner of the World. But he ended up going with a different project. But it was enough of a boost that it made me feel like, hey, maybe I'm onto something here, you know. So I kept writing, but I started doing more contract work. I worked, a fun contract job I did was with Pixar. They have their own theme parks division, and they, just for quality control, they on campus, they had their own theme parks division, but it's now merged with Promo. But it's still, they just like to keep it in-house so they can maintain quality. But I got to work on the Pixar Pier, and they were just building it, and the grand opening, I was there for the grand opening of it, and so I got to kind of do some poses for different things. I would pose it out, and then they would model it and create it. And like I got to do Elastigirl and the Incredicoaster. It was really cool. I think probably my most famous thing of all of the things I've worked on, though, and not famous, but most seen thing, was this Halloween time advertisement I animated for Disneyland Halloween. They play it every year. They still play it every year. I see it, so it's pretty fun. And I did contract work on films, and but I still by this time I was really more interested in story. So I worked my way into getting hired as a story artist. This is some concept art for Wings of Fire, which is it was a Netflix show that got canceled. So I don't have anything I can really show, but this is some concept art from it. But I wanted to talk about it because it was the first thing I worked on, and it was also, it was the first time I worked for a female director, and in my long career, and so it was pretty fun. And the whole story crew was majority female, and just really talented people, just incredible. So, yeah. And then my most recent thing I worked on was this Outer Worlds, the Secret Level anthology series is based on games. It was a pretty fun experience. Just wanted to show here's some concept art from it. They had this kind of Art Nouveau steampunk style. It was really beautiful. It was fun to work on. And they ultimately used mocap, and the process we used for boarding, it was a lot like setting up a live action shoot. We would pick camera lenses, and we'd scout the 3D sets for locations and things. So and these are a couple of my shots in the final render. But the thing that was nice about that's been nice as working as a story artist is it's taught me how to make shot choices and the cameras, lenses, and things, and it's really set me up to want to try directing. It's given me more confidence to try directing. So then I wrote a screenplay that actually won some awards. It's a short film screenplay, And so now I'm developing it as a short film. It's called The Comps. It's about a workaholic designer who's at kind of a dead-end job, and her friend drags her to a death metal show, and she finds herself, she somehow ends up in the middle of a mosh pit, and through her struggle to find her way out of the mosh pit, she sort of discovers who she really is. So, and so here's the cast of characters. The main character is the one with the yellow blouse in the middle, the one who doesn't really fit in, and it's going to be 2D, and we're using the boarding process. I'm doing it with my husband Nick, and we're using the boarding process that I've used on all the projects that I've boarded, and it's a process that uses Blender grease pencil, which is Blender is a free software. It's open software, and so it's definitely something you should check out. And the grease pencil is a really cool feature. And so it's so we stage the shots in a 3D environment. And this is the process I've used on all the other boarding projects I've worked on too. You stage it in the 3D environment with 3D characters, but then we draw over with 2D, like you do a regular storyboard. It's actually a lot like the Spielberg boards that I showed earlier, where they draw over the live action shoot. This kind of feels that way. It's just easier to visualize shots with a camera and a set. I don't know if you struggle with perspective like I do, but it's nice to have that as a tool. Here's one of our characters, and it's a lot like how they struggled with Roxanne getting her right. I understand now on a first hand what it takes to get the character right. But this is one of our characters, Spoopy. And then we hired a guy from ArtStation. We found him on ArtStation to model our characters and rig them, and then so we can use them for the Blender process I talked about. And yeah, so here's a scene that we boarded from our film. It just shows you the process. And just be warned, I do 2 voices. It's scratch audio. This is very rough, but this is very typical of what we would do on a show. So hopefully it'll play. Oh no, sorry. This is another one of our characters. This is our character Red. He's clearly a meddler, and I think he's pretty great. Here's the scene.
Hey, yeah, sorry I'm late. I had a project due and Yeah, well, at least you showed up. I'm just so busy at work. I didn't even have time to change for this.
Why do you still work at that place? It's like douchebag sportswear. It's not you. They don't even get you. Well, at least you didn't invite Spoopy. She'd probably want to go and cosplay.
Hey! Just don't like the band!
So that's our film Comps. It's in progress. And I just wanted to leave you with this. I just read this great Hockney quote, and I thought it would be a good way to end. You'll never meet an artist who's dying saying, God, I wished I'd been president of Bank of America. But you might meet a dying president of Bank of America who says, you know, I wish I'd been a poet or an artist. So, all right. Yay.
questions?
The house life?
Yeah.
I was wondering, what was kind of like your experience when you started like working in animated films as like entering such a male-dominated field?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it is male dominated. I guess as you can kind of see, maybe there's a common thread that comes through is it's just finding the people who support you, you know, and so there are a lot of guys who weren't supportive, but you just have to find the ones that do support you, and you just have to keep looking straight ahead and try to ignore the criticism. But yeah, definitely, unfortunately, it seems like guys like to work with guys, and not all, but a lot, and so, and it's hopefully changing. I have to say some of the best films I've seen in the last 5-10 years have been by women. So, one of my favorite female directors is Kelly Reichert. She's live action, but her films are amazing, and she just has her own style. Like Joanna Hogg, Lynn Ramsey, and I just saw a film by this 25-year-old filmmaker called, I had to write her name now because Luna Carmoon, and she's British, just 25, and she's already making great films. So it's just, it's, for me, my experience, I just latch on to the people who supported me and kept my own dream, my own imagined future. Yeah.
How would you say the industry has changed compared to when you first started working for a studio and being assigned films, compared to now when it's more freelance and gig-based? Like, what are some of your observations?
I guess it's, even when I was at the studios, especially at ILM, you'd be selected. So there were a lot of people who wouldn't be on films because there'd be an animation supervisor, and then they would pick their team. So that's why I showed that photo of us at my young. I was with that group, and we worked on a lot of films together just because we were sort of a crew. So as far as it being gig-based, you just have to make connections and then sort of latch on, and then you sort of travel in groups, you know? It's really about networking and finding the people you work best with, and then a lot of times, I mean, the project took the second row to really the amount of fun I had with the people, the quality of the people, right? So I didn't really care what I worked on. That group, we worked on some pretty bad movies, like DOC, and
I love that movie.
Oh well, okay. I actually do too, but it was so much fun to work on, and because of the team. So it's about the team and not the film.
They do travel in herds.
Knowing that you worked on Phantom Menace, did you actually get to meet George Lucas? And if so, what characters did you work on Phantom Menace?
I worked on I never met George. He was you weren't supposed to really approach him because there were so many weird fanatics that would bother him, you know, so I can understand. But I worked on Phantom Menace mostly because I worked on that stampede sequence with, it's all these creatures running, and I can't remember, it's like when you first meet Liam Neeson, I think.
Oh, it's Jar Jar.
Oh, okay, that's it. And it was really cool. I think it was based on my work on Jurassic Park. I was pretty good at doing the creature work, so they had me on with like a kind of a special team. They were developing this amazing software. We're using these really low res sprites to path out the run cycles, and it was back when software was a little chuggier, so slower. So having this fast software was a really, really great thing. And you basically draw the path and then put the sprite on, and you could see it and just play it on the software live. So yeah, they were developing that, and that's kind of why I was on it for that. And so I worked on those creatures I did run cycles for those creatures, and that part. Yeah.
Hi. I was wondering what made you inspired to work on character and story. Was Roxanne like the diving point, or was it before you worked on Megamind that you wanted to pursue that?
Oh, and it was before. I wanted to do character from the beginning. I sort of stumbled on ILM and creature work, and I respected it, and I was a big fan of Star Wars and E.T. and everything growing up, so I had a lot of respect for it. But I really wanted to do story from the very beginning, and that's what I was interested in school and everything. So my move to DreamWorks was really so that I could do character work. Yeah.
So you talk about like moving to studios. Is that like a difficult process to sort of like get a job at DreamWorks moving from ILM?
It is now. Back then, it was just kind of different. It wasn't as saturated with animators, so it was a little bit more. Now animators are kind of replaceable, but back then it was. They were more in demand. So actually, my move to DreamWorks, I was headhunted. They approached me, and yeah. So yeah.
Software's obviously changed a lot over the course of your career. And I was just wondering how that has changed, or like not really changed, approaches to production.
Oh yeah, totally. I think that's what I was getting at with the Blender grease pencil process. It's just a way of doing boards that's. I think it's changing the boarding process, because a lot of times they'll actually use our staging for the final.
Oh, that's like the same staging from the final.
On Secret Level, they used a lot of our staging for the finals. Yeah. So it's a lot like a live action shoot, really. But yeah, I mean, software's changed so much. It's so much faster, and you can do so much more. And it's I think enabled a lot of people to be more independent too.
I was curious because you've worn a lot of different sort of hats, from like script writing to boarding to then also like character animation. Just sort of your perspective from someone who's done like each thing, like what sort of elements make for like a really strong storyboard, or like what makes it easier for the animators, or what makes like a shot more interesting, or kind of adapting storyboard from like scripts.
Yeah, I think it's something that it's good to showcase action, comedy, and drama. Try to have that, and it's also about being very conscious of shot choices, and being economical with shot choices. That's really important. I'll go back there because I think. What?
You mentioned that you were a lead animator for Roxanne on Megamind, and I guess I was curious about like what that role entails. When you were a lead animator, were you mostly in charge of animating Roxanne in most of her shots throughout the film?
No, I would just review shots for quality control and maintaining a consistency in her character and her look and expressions and stuff like that. That's pretty much what I did. And then early, when people were onboarding onto the show, I put together like a reel of just her style, and I just sort of guide people just how to what her look was, and just things to look out for on her model and troubleshooting and stuff like that. So it was really for maintaining consistency in her character and stuff. And then I did some early tests with her too to kind of develop her look and her style. Yeah.
So at the moment, while you're focused on like your feature film, are you still doing studio work? And if not, do you see yourself at this point in your career doing studio work again? Why or why not?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I definitely will go back to working because I'll just need to. And so, but it just seems like the industry's changed so much that it's really about contract work now. So I'm hoping that when I get the film done, whatever that is, I'll probably do work in. I'll probably keep doing contract work while making the film, just to fund it, and then. But I'm hoping I can then direct or write more. Yeah, that's my imagined future at this point.
One question I have is, how did you kind of get into that animation industry from college?
After animation school?
Yeah,
Oh, so they recruited. They sent. I got hired right out of college, and they actually ILM sent recruiters to Sheridan, and they showed. So we just showed our reels. I got hired based on my pencil tests. So yeah, and they trained me at ILM, but that's a thing of the past. It's different now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're a good way of getting into these studios, they all seem to offer internship programs, and that's made for students to onboard, to get a foot in the door at the studio. So it's look into this. Pixar has got it. DreamWorks, I think, Leica.
Yeah.
They do, yeah. And so, and I have a friend. When I was at Pixar, my office mate, she did the internship, and I think it took her 7 tries to get in. Like, she just kept applying. And so you really just can't take rejection personally. You just have to keep trying. You know, it's really not anything personal. And so she just sucked it up and kept working, and eventually they let her in. And she's like a lead now. So.
Hey, well, and maybe 1 or 2 more?
There's one.
What made you want to make your short film with 2D animation instead of 3D?
Oh, because I like the look of 2D, and I think that's what's funny is with the Splendor process, it's almost like we're flipping and starting with CG and going to 2D, where it used to always be the 2D boards. And like when I'd work on CG films, I'd always look at the concept art and just think that it sometimes looked better than the models, you know, that we get these CG models. So I always so if it's funny that it's like it's flipping back around. I think Pixar, their next film is going to be 2D, or it's going to have a 2D look. So I think it's sort of funny how it ebbs and flows. There's trends and things. Okay.
On the topic of your new short film, how are you gonna like distribute it? Are you gonna do the normal method of like going through film festivals, or are you gonna put it online or go through a distributor?
I have no idea. I don't really know. It's all changing so fast right now. I don't know. There's really, it's funny, I was just talking to another friend who's making a short right now, and we were both trying to figure out what we're gonna do, because it's just, he was gonna approach a theater and just see if they'll play it before a film, you know? It's like, there's really no platform right now that will earn us any money. But I think I'll just be happy if it gets seen, and that's my goal. So.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you all for attending. I know we'll be breaking out, and Julie will be visiting a few classes now.